So they were very grateful for that help.
Great, nice. Speakers from the floor. Number 8. 8A, Woodard and Curran's status report and Vinyl Cove alternative analysis report.
Is Brent there?
Yep. Right, is that his beat?
We are on.
There you are, Brent. Hi.
So this is where we start the hour-and-a-half presentation. Pam, is that where we start?
You can try.
Oh,
We'll see how far you get.
Well, we thought we did the status report and then the Vinyl Cove analysis report at the same time, so anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we starting? Brent,
do you want to do status report first?
whatever you want to do is entirely up to you, sir. You have the floor.
We'll go really fast. So I'm Brent Bridges, and with me today is Megan McDevitt and Kevin Trainer, and we'll talk a little bit about Vinyl Cove. We've got about 6 slides that we want to present, so try to make it as crisp as possible. As far as an update on other things, we are at the very nearest end of the design process on the downtown project and the first phase of the downtown project, which we've been working on, which is the ferry terminal up to Water Street. And so we are, again, diligently getting all of the last few easements that we need. Looks like everything's falling into place. And so the last couple of easements that we need, and again, it's been a pretty extensive list of easements that we need to be able to go forward and do this. The thought is that once we secure those, and hopefully we do that as early as this week, if not next week, then we can submit the entire package to the funding agency, which is the Economic Development Administration, to get approval to put the project out to bid. And so that's where we are as far as the downtown project. We are also in the beginning stages, based on what I think was the very successful public meeting that we had, a while back in the summer, that really kind of kicked off the next phase of work, which is looking at the 2 downtown parking lots, the boat ramps, and to be able to put some money into those, to be able to upgrade those, raise the levels up, add some components that make those more usable. The boat ramps, of course, which are somewhat unusable based on their condition, but 2 new boat ramps, work on the parking lots, as well as the relocation of the water district offices to the location of the current wastewater treatment plant. That's the next phase of work. I think Gabe is gathering up the kind of yellow stickies that came out of that meeting that were some of the ideas that people put forth. And I think we have not set a date yet, but we're thinking, mid-September is really the next meeting to kind of set the stage for the kickoff of that phase of the work. And similarly, the last phase, and it all kind of blends together, is the a congressional earmark that the town received. And so that work is also stormwater related on Main Street and off of Main Street. And so will help enhance some of the stormwater work for the project, as well as we're going to extend the sewer down around from it currently ends on Lower Main Street just before the ferry terminal. We'll extend the sewer down around the corner towards the treatment plant. And so some sewer work and some stormwater work that are part of I want to say 3rd phase, but as we've said, it kind of all goes together. It's the funding agencies that are kind of creating the divisions between all the work. And so we'll primarily be doing that work at the same time that we're really doing the work on the parking lots and the boat ramps. And I think a lot of excitement about that next phase of work, to be done. And again, September, we'll set a date to come out and start meeting with people, talking about some of the ideas to be able to get that moving along. And then hopefully, within a month or so, it would be nice to be able to put the downtown project out to bid so we can kind of continue the momentum. As far as a couple other things, I'd say on my report, we've got some lingering issues at the Public Works building that will be more of an issue this winter. And so we're working with Sheridan, which is the contractor who did the original work on the Public Works building, to kind of rectify some of those things that really have to do with a lot of snow melting off the equipment when it's in the building that kind of runs where it's not supposed to. So we've got some plans to attack that. So that work will be done this fall as well. And I think that's the update. Transfer station has been, all of you have seen and looked at the transfer station. I think we've had a lot of good reports from the town as far as the renovations that have been done and what's in place. And there's a couple last minute, changes to the plans that we need to do to kind of correct that. But I think everything's operational and in place and people are working through it. And, now we've got to, just correct a couple things now that we see operationally how it's working. There were a couple of additional things that we want to accomplish there. And so we'll do that over the next month or so. And so by the time winter hits, we should be everything will be done at the transfer station, in place, ready to go. So I think
What changes are you prepared to make, or proposing to make?
well, I think what we've seen on the gates coming coming out, we thought 18 feet might be enough, but what I think we learned is we need to make them a little bit bigger. And so proposing to add about 6 feet to the entrance and exit gates to make it a little easier for people turning in. And so we'll make those changes. We've got a couple other things we need to do as far as access to the containers, when you're throwing things in, to be able to make that easier. We've also found that, the containers are being placed really close to the wall. And so the thought is to put some bumpers on the wall so that you can snug the containers up to the wall, but not damage the wall. And also, there's a little bit of a gap between the wall and the container that things can fall down and water can fall down. So we want to put some sort of flap over that. So really is to protect the wall and then keep things from kind of falling down that kind of 6-inch gap that exists. That's really hard to get to and create some nuisance. So those are the things, but the building went in 2 weeks ago, Megan. So the operations building went in, and I think that looks good and is in place. And so I think, again, the 2 gates we found the biggest problem with, as far as we thought 18 feet would do it, but just from a convenience standpoint, another 6 feet, is probably going to help things along. And so those are the last couple of things that we need to get squared away in the next month or so.
Sounds good.
Good, thank you.
So on to the Vinyl Cove. Anybody want to discuss that, Brent?
Yes, can we share screen so Kevin can put up? So what you're just a little bit of preamble. So it's with me. I'm Brent Bridges, Grand Conceptor. That's what I will say. It's a nice title. Sometimes you got to change your title. So I always think I got my fingers in everything on Vinalhaven, and so that's probably the best word for it. Pam would use another word to describe me, but I'm not going to use that. It's a public meeting. But I think there's a lot of things going on, and I've had the privilege of being involved in it. And tonight you have Megan McDevitt, who's a senior project manager at Woodard & Curran, and Kevin Trainer, who's a technical manager at Woodard & Curran. And this, with the 3 of us, are basically the team that did Carrying Place Bridge. And so Kevin was instrumental, and that was again an award-winning project for Vinalhaven. So Carrying Place Bridge. We hope you all love it. We do, but we're not going to talk about Carrying Place Bridge tonight. But that's the team. So Kevin was involved in that project. Ann is involved in Vinyl Cove. Megan has been involved with Transfer Station, the downtown project as well as Carrying Place. And so she's been through all the projects. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan to give a little bit of background And then Kevin will do a little bit of like what we've accomplished and what we're recommending. And PM, it's not an hour and a half, I promise.
That's right.
Can somebody confirm that you can see my screen? I shared the wrong one at first.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're all set, Megan, if you want.
Awesome.
Whatever,
Well,
Megan.
thank you all for having us here tonight to talk about this analysis. So we're gonna, like Brent said, keep it brief. We'll give you a little background into where this project came from and how it's being funded. And then Kevin's gonna talk about kind of the work we've been doing, what the findings were from that work, and just kind of the recommendations for how to deal with the issues at hand. So Kevin, if you could go to the next slide, please. So I'm sure all of you have seen some of the flooding problems that happen on North Haven Road. That stretch as you actually go towards the Public Works facility as well as around the Island Road. It floods quite frequently during tide events as well as storm events. And also the road is settling there. I believe it was Maine DOT had come back out and looked at it, and even they were surprised at how much the road has settled. There's substantial settlement and it continues today. There's also what started this project was really a grant effort to see what solutions we could have for that, to address that road, and also the culvert that's under around the Island Road. That was a small culvert that back in 2004 was replaced as an effort to restore the wetlands kind of in this area. But we believe that's kind of helped some of this flooding issues that are happening on North Haven Road. So working with Maine Coastal Program, the town was able to obtain a grant to actually pay and fund this alternative analysis, where we're looking at both what can we do to rectify the flooding issues at North Haven Road, as well as what can we do to the culvert around the island to help with some of these flooding issues and just overall development in the area. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin now, who's going to talk about the work that we've completed.
Thanks, Megan. Hello, everyone. As part of this alternatives analysis, we did a number of things in the field to collect information to support the alternatives analysis, including a field survey that was done by VHB, who also performed the survey for the downtown work, and a geotechnical investigation done by Summit Geotechnical Engineers, who helped with Carrying Place Bridge, geotech on that, and on the transfer station. We also installed water level loggers on the upstream and downstream, where I suppose maybe north and south sides of the around the Island Road culvert. Collected data for 30 days to get kind of a full lunar cycle and used that to calibrate our model. Hydraulic model. We used HECRAS for this study, and we simulated a number of alternatives looking at different culvert sizes, both with and without a passive tide gate, so not anything that would need to be operated manually, but a tide gate that would be activated by the water reaching a certain level, and then a range of road elevations for the North Haven Road to address, kind of directly address the flooding issues where the road is sinking and the water is coming up and they've crossed paths.
Kevin, I also think we should mention that we put a ransom out, so anyone who can find the lost data collector, if it shows up somewhere along the line that somebody tries to turn it in for money, then let us know, because we
Yes.
lost one in the process.
That is true. I mean, excellent point, Brent. We'll keep the APB out on the data logger.
Literally, somebody literally took it.
No, I think that it came free from its tether.
Okay.
So just very briefly to illustrate some of the different scenarios that we looked at a kind of generally a 72-hour simulation looking at mean higher high water level, a highest astronomical tide, and then 50%, 10%, and 1% annual chance events, which translate kind of also known as 2-year, 10-year, and 1-year or 100-year average recurrence interval events. And just as a little sample of the results, the simulation running on the right is the present day 1% annual chance event. So we created this, evaluated the alternatives using the simulation where you can see on this here, this is kind of the peak. We took data from, or kind of made the event somewhat mirror what happened in December of 2022 in terms of kind of the number of tidal cycles that were impacted by the scenario that we were looking at. So we used this tool that was calibrated by the data loggers that remained in place, and used that to compare the alternatives. A couple of primary findings from both the field investigation and the alternatives analysis. The geotechnical investigation included 3 borings over a span of about 500 feet on North Haven Road, and identified a pretty significant depth of compressible material, organic silt and clay. And that indicates that like the settlement that's been seen will likely continue. So it's not like it's kind of reached its bottom. And then the alternatives analysis, findings from that, we looked at a smaller culvert size, which results in a pretty significant wetland loss, kind of judging by how it would impact the mean higher high water elevation. And we found that raising the road improves the access, obviously kind of immediately, but also provides greater long-term road resilience. The structure of the road is, subject to continued settlement and is likely going to need to be addressed, whether it's raised or not, in a reasonably short period anyway. And then on the culvert side of things, a passive tide control, so the tide gate that I was speaking of earlier, would give another layer of protection and allow that to be adjusted in the future. So it could be set at such an elevation that kind of the current mean higher high water is kind of the maximum elevation, and anything higher than that is stopped, and that provides additional protection. But just to illustrate kind of the challenge really in the road itself, this is a section from the geotechnical report looking at the 3 borings. So this is North Haven Road, north is to the left here, and we have borings 1, 2, and 3. The small culvert is located here. And what we see in the cross section is this big dip in the bedrock, and then about 25 feet of marine deposits, clays and silts, and then another 10 to 12 feet of marsh deposits, so organic material. It's really compressible, and then the fill, and then the roadway fill and the pavement over top of that. So I think to some degree this was expected, but maybe even a little bit more extreme than we had anticipated. If there are any questions, feel free to interrupt me. From there, I can jump straight to the recommendation, which is kind of a 2-phased approach. First being raising the North Haven Road to a minimum elevation, so there still might be a kind of a sag in the road for drainage, but a minimum elevation of 11, and that's NAVD 88. So in mean lower low water, that's 16.7 or so. And then so raising the road will kind of address the immediate and long-term flooding issues, but will require, because of that thick layer of compressible material, that there will probably be a period in the first 12 to 18 months where some regrading is necessary, because that additional 5 feet of soil will kind of accelerate the settlement, and there will be a period where that needs to be addressed. I think a fill will require some construction easements, but that the footprint can really be minimized by pretty steep side slope on the fill cross section, and the estimated project cost, including that kind of first year of more significant maintenance, is $950,000. And that addresses the roads directly, provides that provides emergency access and continuous access, and is higher than the 1% annual chance water surface that we calculated for the area. So it provides that level of service. And then the second phase would be replacing the round the island road culvert with a tide control structure, and that would be replacing that culvert with dual 6-foot by 8-foot culverts that would maintain roughly the same cross-sectional area of the arch culvert that's there now. One of the things that we found, if we reduced the culvert cross-section to 6-foot by 6-foot, for instance, likely lose somewhere over 8 acres of the wetland area. So it would be kind of a counterproductive project to replace it with that size. But the tide control structure would allow you to select essentially what level of protection it provides. And kind of an initial thought to set it at around elevation 6, which is a little bit higher than mean high water, but would control additional flooding and provide protection to there's another low point, North Haven Road, further to the south, and provide protection to private properties around File Cove. And that culvert replacement, including the dual culverts and the tide control structure that you see an example of here, is estimated cost of $820,000. It was a little less than an hour and a half, so I hope you're not disappointed, but that is all that we have.
Is there any anticipated grant money available for any of this work?
Yes.
And if so, how much do you think that might be?
I see Gabe on the phone.
Yes, I
Yeah,
see
she's
Gabe
there.
there.
Yeah, these are good grant projects. There is, I'm curious to where this is a state aid road. What sort of partnership with them? And is this state aid road? It is, right? Yeah. So what
Yes.
sort of partnership, with MDOT, the town might, go in on something. But yeah, there's a lot of money right now for this type of, especially culvert replacement is, I think there's an existing municipal municipal road culvert program, which was just moved to DOT. So that's going to be, that will mean that state aid roads can get covered with that culvert replacement funding. And it's particularly around water flow and resilience, and also organism passage. So that's a good prospect. There's also a new, it's the second round upcoming probably next year of what's a newer program called the Maine Infrastructure Adaptation Fund. And this would be another, I think, a good project. It's mostly like water or wastewater, stormwater, but also road infrastructure is part of that as well. So that could be a good opportunity. I think if we're looking at, other sort of more like nature-based type solutions to incorporate into this, there could be additional funding in from that standpoint too. So yes, an exploration, but it's certainly not one of those projects where you're scratching your head and saying, gee, I wonder how we could fund this. There are many options out there.
Well, that's good news.
What's the estimated maintenance cost on this tide control structure 5-10 years out?
Yeah, so the regular maintenance on these is pretty minimal. The recommended maintenance is replacing, if you can see my pointer, this is essentially like a vertical, like a PVC standpipe essentially. And as the water level gets in there, it triggers a mechanical switch basically that allows this gate to swing closed. And otherwise, like then after the event passes, water pushes this back open and then it locks in the open position until that arm gets triggered again. Regular maintenance is something like every 5 to 10 years, you replace some gaskets, and in this, like within this mechanism. But that's really the only maintenance that is suggested, and a number of these have been in place for 20 or 25 years, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, and some of them have been in place, I don't want to say this, but with no maintenance, and they're still working. So I would assume some maintenance, but it's a pretty minimal maintenance investment.
I mean, the Pacific Northwest doesn't get the freezing temperatures like we do. When that freezes up in there, you know, if it comes off like we had that -17, I mean, that's a fluke. How does that affect? I mean, the Pacific Northwest is just a different, yeah.
Yeah, so I think if you were to get if you were to get this column frozen completely solid, then that might potentially be an issue, but that's a good question that we can investigate further. I think the likelihood of that is reasonably low, with the way that the system is intended to operate, but we'll find out more about that.
Kevin,
Thanks.
one of the things would be like, I would think inspection, not maintenance, but inspection, you know, debris and things like that. So I think it would probably be, you know, routine inspection just to make sure something isn't plugging something up.
Yeah, I think a visual inspection is certainly important to do regularly, but I think cost-wise would be a pretty low investment. But yes, inspection would be important.
Kevin, do you know, have you actually seen this type of thing?
I have not seen one live and in person, know that, but I am aware of them, aware that they function pretty well. Kind of the alternative to this is a gate that swings. Let's see, the gate swings on kind of like a vertical hinge along the top, and has you may have seen them kind of larger, like basically big bulbs, like a mooring ball to float as the water level gets higher. Those bulbs float, and that swings the gate shut. So there is an alternative to this, potentially, if this is not necessarily the direction, but I think this is preferred for a number of reasons, because of the way that it closes is less likely, number one, to, I think, get something trapped in it, but also it closes more quickly, so that those the float arm kind of passive gates, it takes as long as the water level takes to change, 2 or 3 feet, and so you're still letting flood water in that whole time, and so it can be a little bit more sensitive to how you fix the actual flotation. So I think that's.
I think my question, I should have asked if you could find a place that
Sure.
has this
We will.
type of mechanism, or whatever it's called,
I don't know if this is- Megan, I was
for us
thinking
to have more information about that.
Old Orchard Beach has one. I'd like to see if it's like this one. So Old Orchard Beach has a tide gate. I just don't know if it's exactly like this one, but Pam, we'll look at some installations to take a look at.
That
Yeah,
would be great.
We got a list of installations from the vendor when we talked to them, so we can get back to you, I think, pretty quickly with that.
Okay, that'd be great.
How much we spent on this project already?
It was a grant, so the town contributed 25%. I apologize.
Yeah,
So we
it
spent
says-
9,375.
Right. Okay, well, does anybody have any more questions at this point? I mean, it's clearly a problem that we have to have fixed, so. just-
I have one more question for him. When it comes to controlling the water flow, I was under the impression after a 10-year period, we would not require the state approval for restricting the flow or managing the flow through that culvert. Is that correct, or do we need more approvals for this?
Well, I think what he's talking about is some stipulation with the previous grant. All the materials for that, culvert project are up in the loft, and, I haven't been able to retrieve those, so I don't know of any,
Restrictions?
restriction,
Well, the reason I asked the question was in here, it was mentioned earlier about getting state approval for part of this
Oh,
project.
you have to get permits regardless. If you have a project that's in the water like that, replacing a culvert like that, you'd have to get Marine Resources and Army Corps, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you always, regardless of the project or past projects, you still have to get those kinds of permits for a new project. Is that what you mean, Donald? Am I answering your
Yeah, I'm
question?
trying to figure out what is involved in getting approval for this project. No, for permits.
Megan, do you know what permits would be required?
Marjorie, you're right on. This would require a NERPA, Natural Resource Protection Act permit through Maine DEP. It would also probably require a general permit through Army Corps, because it's within waters of the US. Army Corps will probably consult with Department of Marine Resources as well as the Coast Guard and stuff like that. So there are multiple permits required for this, but very similar type of permits that we got for Carrying Place Bridge. So nothing that we haven't done before. It's just an application and showing them why and the value of the project and how it will be done and constructed in a manner that will protect the adjacent resources.
So it shouldn't be a big deal then.
I wouldn't expect, it's just a process that you go through.
I mean, we looked at any designs with something with non-moving parts, it's like a dam that was there before to restrict the flow in and out.
Yeah, the difficulty with those is that kind of to get to a point where it provides like a flood benefit, you need to restrict it so much that you're kind of restricting the normal tide signal. And so you wind up with kind of some of the same issues previously where there's not enough circulation and there's stagnant water, and the water level never really gets kind of above like the mudflat level, and then kind of everything within that tidal marsh will die again and start to transition to a different kind of habitat.
So we'd go back into what we had before before we had that big culvert. Okay,
Depending on the design.
all right. So does anybody have any more questions? If not, we,
Move on.
would you suggest we just keep moving along with what we're doing now?
Well, as Gabe said, the next steps are, still keeping this on our radar and looking at the opportunities for grants that are coming along.
Yeah, that's encouraging. That they're
I think that's a
Currently
good
out
thing
there.
to do. What do you guys think?
Makes sense.
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
I'll
thank
say-
you, Brent, for cutting it short.
Because the last thing I'll say is, we probably need, based on this, we have not submitted this to the funding agency yet.
Yeah,
And so we're really waiting for the approval of the select board to be able to submit this, and so.
okay.
We
So
will,
should we make a
based on this
motion?
meeting.
I did,
Marjorie?
Yeah, he's correct. So this project was funded through the Maine Coastal Program, Department of Marine Resources, so it's a state of Maine grant. So we should accept the report and then submit this to the grant agency to kind of finalize things.
Okay, so we should make a motion to accept.
The Vinyl Cove Alternatives Analysis
Okay.
Report from Woodard and Kern.
So I'll make a motion to accept the Vinyl Cove Alternative Analysis Report from Woodard and Kern. Can I have a second?
what does that entail? I mean,
Is
accept
Well, we
it.
it
just-
accepting this report, that they made a report,
It doesn't
And-
give you any, it doesn't bind you to
Right.
any.
Doesn't obligate us to additional funding at this point. Or
No,
put us on
no,
a path we
we're
may not
just-
go on.
We're
It
just,
just
sending it
allows the grant to be
Okay.
finalized, so
Okay.
they get paid for doing the analysis,
Just wanna be
if
sure.
I'm reading this correct.
so moved.
Second. All in favor? Thank you.
Now I'll let you go.
Thank you,
Thank
Brent.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all.
Megan. Thank you, Kevin and
Thank you,
Gabe.
guys.
Thank you all.
Alrighty, 8B, wastewater committee appointment. Diane Strong would like to be appointed to that committee. I'm sorry?
Oh, you added it to the agenda.
Oh, you weren't here when we did the
Okay.
additions.
Was that a motion?
We just,
To add it, you did,
just to add her to that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
moved,
I don't,
Second.
right?
do we need a motion? Yes,
Yeah.
okay, all in
So
favor?
Leslie and,
I'm confused on that, on when we do that to the, what, and what are the, is that a 3?
that was my next one. Yeah, 3 year.
Okay,
So 2026.
I think there's a 25 and a 26 open.
okay. Probably put on the 25 and then maybe we can get somebody to do the 26. Right, old business. MSFS rate increase. Phil, I know you have
Yeah,
something you want to talk about here.
right. There's first of all, let me say that Main State Ferry Service Advisory Board was created about 50 years ago. And it was mandated that it meet regularly and discuss issues that are important to the ferry service and that it submit an annual report to the DOT commissioner. And none of that was done for the first 40 years. It was pretty much just a benign committee that didn't do much at all. And we've come a long way since then with the committee. And as a result, this is the first time the DOT has asked the islands for input regarding anything, let alone fare increases. So right now, we've got 6 islands that are served by the ferry service, and 3, if not 4 of them, are on board with the 60-40 split to address the proposed 18% increase. And I'd like to, I mean, the justification is the increase is justified. And how it is arranged in such a way that it will be equitable and affordable for everybody is another matter. The 60-40, for example, would mean that in June, where you now take a car across to 38.50, it will be 46.91 in the season, and during the off season, it's now 31, it would be 36.44. So 30 states, it's a fairer way to distribute the increase between seasonal traffic and off-seasonal traffic, I think, than the 75, 25, but certainly the 100%. And so what I'm looking for is an endorsement of that 60% from the Board of Selectmen, so that the 6 islands can speak to the DOT with one voice in support of that arrangement at the next advisory board meeting.
Well, I certainly would feel free to endorse you to post that for the board.
Me too.
Is everybody in agreement?
Yeah, out of all them options, that was the best, so.
Pardon me?
Out of all those options, that was the best.
I think so. Yeah, and
If we
and
have,
3
to-
other islands,
if we have to do it, then
we have to do something.
it sounds like the best of the best option of the bunch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can't go back and find like something though.
Well, it's been talked about.
Okay, so, does that need a motion? So I'd make a motion that the board recommend
60.
the proposal from, no, how am I gonna word this, Margaret?
You move to support the recommended ferry rate increase at the 60-40 split as recommended by the ferry advisory board members.
Okay, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
There are a few other issues. One is, right now, the ferry service is funded 50-50 by the highway fund
Right.
and 50% by rate. And there's a couple of the islands, Frenchboro and Swans, I think, have suggested that we approach the legislature and ask for an increase in the 50% contribution. And some of the other members of the board are cautious about that. One in particular, Dennis Damon, I think, who was a legislator at one point,
Mhm.
said he's a little cautious about rocking the boat. Because right now, it's kind of a done deal, nobody talks about it. If all of a sudden we ask for an increase, they're concerned about what inland representatives who don't have anything to do with it, coast might do about that.
Right.
On the other hand, ferry services elsewhere in the country are funded to a greater extent by the state than 50-50. So I just want to put that out there because I think it'll be an issue maybe by the next meeting.
I'm sure it will be.
And I'm frankly concerned that at any day now, we won't have any ferry service at all. Because we're just 1 or 2 men away from kind of a disaster situation. So several members of the ferry service advisory board are putting together a proposal or a recommendation to the governor that she endorse reasonable fair payroll increase across the board to secure those people in those positions and make it more attractive for them to continue to work. And I expect to present that to the board, if you're agreeable, that I do that for your consideration, probably before the next BOS meeting, I think, probably in the next week or so.
Bill, what is for an able-bodied seaman today, I've heard that pay was roughly a little over 40,000 a year. Is that where we are?
I think so.
That's pretty low, for all things considered.
Yeah, it was, I can't set the figures right now, but I do know it's low, yeah, unreasonably low.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why we haven't had full crews at many ships in the last year.
Yeah, and it's a very iffy situation right now.
The captain's pay, from what I understand, is ridiculously
I
low.
think so too, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
In
final
comparison
issue is,
pardon me? In comparison to other markets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet just Casco Bay
Yeah,
or Nantucket, where Mark just went to be supervisor there.
yeah.
We'll ask them.
I hope he doesn't bring the same contemptuous attitude there. Anyway,
I didn't say that.
Might play better in Nantucket.
Birthday.
huh?
They might play better in Nantucket.
And then the final issue is of less importance, but it's gonna be on the horizon too, and that is that the Coast Guard has proposed to remove the beacon or the signal, whatever it is, on Drunkard and Fiddler's Ledge. Because they've fallen apart or been torn off or broken off or something twice in the last couple of decades. And they seem to think that their actual argument is the spindles aren't standing up well, and the Drunkard and the Fiddler's Ledge are on the charts. They really don't need any further identification. And the one person I asked about that, Peter Drury, said it was absolutely ridiculous to think that people should be prepared to navigate through those waters without a marker on it.
Right.
So I expect that'll be on your horizon too.
We can start that for you.
Well, plus, isn't that, I think the one on the Green Ledge and the outside the harbor,
That's straight. They
Spindles.
fixed it.
They just-
Oh, they
straightened
did
up.
fix
Yeah.
that? Oh, okay. Well, so maybe there's hope for the fiddler. But
The North Haven in particular, of course, they're more
Exactly.
effective. They're absolutely opposed to it.
yeah,
And we expect again to speak with one voice if we can, as often as possible. If we speak with one voice in 6 islands, the DOT, it's much more effective.
Right.
And,
so the Board of Selectmen should just make a motion to give you carte blanche to take forward your recommendations.
And I'll send it to you for your review. Yeah,
Can I make a motion that reads that way, or is that not acceptable?
Or you could do it in, say,
Do I have to make each
yeah.
Proposal
report
that you
navigation
did,
aids
Phil.
or whatever.
Hmm?
each proposal that Phil just gave us? Do I have to make a separate motion for each one?
You're just giving us a heads up, right?
Yeah, I
Some of
don't
the stuff
think you
is
need-
coming.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go take it. Oh,
I'm gonna present you with the,
The stuff
Proposal.
as it gets built.
finish, please, Tom.
for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, Tom.
No, no, it's
If we
okay.
get too many people talking at
no,
once, we get
understood.
lost here.
Sorry,
all
I
right.
can't hear anyway, so.
Well, I'm not gonna go any further.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. Okay, we'll move on to, let's put the harbor master boat at the bottom of the
They
agenda.
want us to do the rest of this.
I think we should just table it till next meeting.
Okay, Mark,
Hi,
hi. You have a recommendation here?
yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration that everyone is seeking. Why, I have with the harbor boat. My recommendation is that we upgrade the motor and keep it. I did talk to Jimmy and I talked to this Jimmy as well, and I think the maintenance issue is the main concern of just letting it sit there and not take care of it, and that kind of thing. They both said they would step up and do some of that. I'm not a boat guy, you don't want me doing it. It's just the timeliness of getting the vessel. I know there was some talk of there's all kinds of boats available. Well, we just can't go take a boat.
Right.
Just can't, I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, no one wants their boat missing at 4 o'clock in the morning, they want to go to haul. And then if we damage the boat. The other thing is trying to call around, and we've done that before. And, you know, the timeliness of trying to find someone is, you know, how long do you wait? Someone's having a cardiac spell on Green's Island, or there's a boat sinking, or whatever, how long do you want to push that phone before you like, all right, I can't go, you know, whatever it is, so. You know, we're the largest island in the state of Maine that's not connected by a bridge, and to not have a boat available for us to at least make a quick response. That boat is good for, you know, landing on an island, it's a flat bottom, we can usually get in a boat anywhere with it, it can carry equipment and guys that are, and relatively go pretty well along, so, not looking for anything. I mean, I guess the motor that was Jimmy recommended was like.
Oh, our last discussion, we were gonna recommend up to $15,000 from the harbor reserve.
Okay, here's my concern. The boat is not mission ready, ever. So it's useless to you.
Yeah, it isn't right now.
It was useless to you a month ago.
Yeah, no, I
If
understand.
something happened, you're still gonna call around, or everything you just described is going to have to happen because the boat is not being maintained, is not usable. And the reason it's in the condition, the motor's in the condition that it is now is because nobody runs it, nobody uses it, the batteries are always dead. If this, and I don't disagree with you at all, I completely agree that the fire department or emergency services should have some mechanism on the water to be able to provide service in an emergency situation. So Greens Island, sinking boat, get pumps to boats that are sinking. That stuff it makes perfect sense to me. But if it's not maintained like a fire truck and is mission ready right now, then it's useless.
Yeah, and that's what I brought up, in my open statement was, I agree with that, I
Yeah.
know it wasn't.
It's completely useless.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and that's why I
So-
opened up with that statement of why.
Mhm. And the harbor master at the last meeting said he doesn't want the boat, doesn't need the boat, has no interest in having the boat. So why isn't the boat assigned to the fire department? Any maintenance comes out of the fire department, any new equipment comes out of the fire department budget. And it's maintained and monitored and taken care of by the fire department, so that it's mission ready.
We could do that, that'd be the next budget year cycle, obviously. The other issue is that you have a harbor master at this time and date that has a boat and is willing to take his own boat to go do stuff. In 2 years, will you have?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if we're going to do this, it can't continue to be used and unused the way that it has been in the past. I mean, I have information, my sons both work at the boatyard. They see what condition the boat is in when it comes into the boatyard. There's 4 feet of kelp on the bottom of the thing. It's never used, it's never taken off the dock. It rides on the piling. The stern of it's all busted up because it just sits and rides on the piling with a tide. When I went down and looked at it, it was just a mess. Everything was in disarray. If one of your fire trucks looked like that, they'd be held to pay somewhere.
Well, I think what the problem is, if we do agree to go ahead with this, and Kevin says here, Kevin said the boat is in good shape other than the motor. We have to be reassured that the boat is gonna be looked at least, if not more than once a week. Somebody is gonna have to be held responsible, whether it's a combination of the harbor master, the co-harbor master, or somebody, one of you guys on the fire department. I don't know, but we're gonna have to have a guarantee that the boat is gonna be taken good care of. Peter, do you have a?
Just 3 times that I've used it just to run it. The only thing that was wrong with it all 3 of those times was the solar panels overcharged the batteries. Batteries are bone dry. Even after I took them home, filled them up, charged them, put them back in, it ran like a top.
So there's nothing wrong with the motor.
No,
Yeah, that's my thing, is that boat, I get the need for the boat, but that boat isn't really fit to do anything. If 9 times out of 10, if you're gonna have to go someplace, which if we're going much outside the harbor, that's the Coast Guard. That boat, if you had to go across the sound or something and it's choppy, I mean, that boat isn't the boat for it. So like a 115 is just way overkill for what it is. And
I think we had talked about that and decided that was too big a motor for that boat, right?
Yeah.
Well, they started out with a 150 and then went down to a 115.
Yeah.
Right.
But, Mark,
But
listening to what you were just saying, I have a question whether that same thing Lad was into, is that boat you have now adequate for what you think you would need in the future?
So, well. So we can have a big city of Los Angeles fireboat, right? So that can take everyone, right?
No. And what's your optimum size, I guess? Does this do it?
So when we go on calls, like we have a fire in another island, we'll start out with this boat. And we'll also then buys us some time to get another boat coming with either more personnel, more equipment, or whatever. This lets us get somewhere fairly quickly with someone who's had a medical issue on another boat. We can go to meet them. We also can go up to like the other side of the island, like we've been up by the basin a couple times to pick equipment up there and then shuttle it across to another place. So there's like various sizes, right? I mean, if this is a good boat, so you can get into places and land on places where if you have a power boat, you're not gonna take the power boat and drive it up on the shore, right? So, or shuttle equipment back and forth to the shore. So I can't say, is it the perfect boat for us? Do we need a bigger boat? I'm not saying we're gonna go get a bigger boat.
I'm just, always spend the money, but the other question is, it sounds like you might be better off trailing this boat rather than leaving it in the water.
Where are we gonna keep it?
exactly. Jimmy, you have a question.
Well, it was what Lad said. I mean, that boat, Full Point is seaworthy. I mean, I've been with Bob, we've been to Isle of Hull, Eagle Island, through the thoroughfare. I mean, weather permitting, it is a good sea boat.
Weather permitting.
Well, I mean, you all have your limitations.
Right.
I mean, I mean, if it gets too bad, you gotta call the warden service, you gotta call the Coast Guard. But like Max said, to run around these islands, to start the process of what we need to do, that's what that's what needs, if we have to call for more resources, then we can have someone, I mean.
You have a starting point.
Right. I mean, if we get called out at 2 o'clock in the morning, like he said, I can't call that. He's not gonna be happy if I call him 2 o'clock in the morning.
Give me a call.
Yeah, find out.
Well, let's be honest, if you get called out for an emergency on another island, or if you get called out for a sinking boat, you're gonna be called Coast Guard or the
Right.
wardens.
Well, you do, that's
You
part of
do,
our protocol.
but as the
Right.
jumping
But
off
we
point.
start the process.
Right.
With the
But
boat.
you're not gonna go in that boat, or you haven't gone in that boat in God only knows how long, because it's unusable.
Well, because it
We
hasn't, it hasn't been taken care of, we understand that, but we have in the past used it to go through.
Right.
I've been in, right there in, you know, like a major player in 3 boat sinkings, you know, and that Carolina skiff is ideal for setting out booms, transporting workers, transporting the, you know, the water pumps and stuff like that.
I can see that.
It's perfect for harbor use.
Mm.
And you're not gonna beat it. It's the most stable platform there is.
Right,
But
Yeah.
if the motor's working, maybe could we just keep the motor working and we can put it back in the water and see if it can be maintained
So
and,
do they copper paint it? If there was kelp growing on it, so that indicates it had been too long between haul outs.
Well, it hadn't been used, I mean.
But if there's copper paint, it's not gonna grow.
Let's get a copper hang on the bottom of it.
But it's quite warm,
Which-
when I went down and looked at it.
yeah, so throw some paint on it.
So that's just maintenance.
Right,
That's
I mean-
like twice yearly maintenance.
Yeah,
When I went down to, oops, sorry.
no, you're fine.
When I went down to check on it a while back before I got hauled out, I mean, it does ride the spile, but when I took the boat over years ago, I put spring lines on it. And if you tighten them up tight enough, it doesn't go anywhere. But you gotta get down and check them, because you know, sawing it back and forth, they loosen up. You know, I mean,
if someone
it's-
out and ran it once a week,
well, that's what I used to do. I used to have to do it 3 days a week. Like Sunday, I would run it down to Old Harbor and back, give it a good run in.
yeah,
You know, then just maybe Wednesday get down, we have a checklist to go through the checklist.
So while I'm here in the, you know, early winter, I shovel it out all the time. Snow, that is.
So I think it's important. Okay, Mike, one question I want to make certain, you say the motor is good now, as long as it's tended to? That it's no reason that we need a new
The
motor?
only thing that has prevented it from starting is the batteries.
So-
And I've taken batteries down of my own personal batteries just to get it started. And she fires right up.
So is that for the fact that the batteries are old and it just needs to
No,
be
they're
replaced?
being overcharged.
They're
by the
overcharging with
big
that solar
panel
thing,
that's on
okay,
the front there.
all right, so my second.
It's my guess.
Okay. So my second question is, who's gonna be responsible to take care of this boat? How many people do we need from the harbor master and the fire department? How do we set up a maintenance schedule so we're certain that the boat will be tended to on a timely basis? Like you said, Jimmy, you used to take it 3 times a week. That might be a little more than it needs, but
I think once a week, probably be okay.
we need to make certain that somebody's signing up for
Somebody's
this
doing it.
mission, so to speak, for this, taking care of this craft.
Right, no, it's definitely this, the issue is maintenance.
Yep,
What if we, I think you're on it, Pam, but I would think that the way to do that, we don't have a budget for it right now. Why not take any money we need to do to fix this thing out of the harbor reserve, but put it over temporarily to a re-budget under the fire department, emergency management? Where the responsibility is solely in that ballpark.
I don't understand what you just said.
I don't either.
Right now, there was a concern about budget. And there's concern about maintenance and who actually uses it. The fire department uses it, but the budget is under the harbor master.
It
So-
was my recommendation to take it out of the harbor reserve. That was
Right.
my
Right.
recommendation.
Well, I mean, from what we're being told right now,
You
the
don't
motor
need-
runs fine.
Yeah.
So we don't really need to change the motor, just get the boat up to snuff mechanically and maintenance wise and then maintain it.
I don't know anything about motors. I just,
No, I
the
know, I just-
recommendation was
Right.
from our harbor master was that we needed to replace it. So that was his recommendation.
Right,
And
no, I
I
understand
think that I thought it was supported by everyone. I guess it's not.
Well, if the,
I talked to Bob and he said that he thinks the motor's an 07. So how many years?
right,
How many hours?
if we can keep this
16.
engine running until the next budget season, then we can bring this up for discussion again. If you guys think that the motor will,
I mean, I can talk to Hawkins Boatyard.
I mean, but do a compression
but-
check on the motor
I
and.
can check with them. I mean, I'm not, like I said, you don't want me talking about.
No.
Just don't-
all right,
I
Matt,
give you
we
that.
make sure you are not in
I can
control.
go
of
talk to people who know about it, but
Right.
I like that.
I mean, if you can collaborate between the harbor master and the fire department to have a maintenance schedule, then so be it. I think that's a great idea.
As long as it's not a somebody, nobody, somebody ought to do it and nobody does.
Right,
That's
that's
why-
why I'm saying that needs to be a collaboration that,
I think
is
that's what I
held to.
said. We
Yes.
need to make sure we have the two
I like,
departments working together to make sure that that boat is tended to once it gets back overboard.
I'll go down and talk to Kevin Hollis or Avery and have them do an assessment of the engine. Have do a compression check on the engine, find out exactly what kind of shape it's in. And see if it is something, I mean, if we want something that's mission critical, meaning it's ready to go in an emergency right now, just like a fire truck would be, or an ambulance, then we want to make sure that it's right. And if it isn't right, then we talk about replacing it. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, Tom. Just get his recommendation.
Yep.
Right.
yeah,
This is
Um,
what we're at, Kevin, and we just want your recommendation.
yeah, go through the motor.
Yeah.
Find, if it'll run and be ready to go whenever we need it, then great, that's fine. If it won't, then that's fine too.
can I ask about the solar thing?
They're
Is that,
maintainers.
I know what that, I know what it is,
Yeah.
but is it, why is it overcharging? Is it because, certainly not because we have had too much
Well,
sun?
It's probably, it's probably a system that doesn't have, a regulator,
Yeah.
Okay,
you know.
so that needs to be
So
fixed,
there are panels that, you know, trickle charge
right?
and, cut off when the batteries say, you know.
We're done.
12.5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, if we're running the thing once a week and giving it a good run. you
So
don't need
maybe
solar
we should
panels, so.
make sure we have a different system, like what you just said.
I mean, even if the battery
Solar.
switch is shut off, it's still charging.
That depends on
I did not
why.
I have
I
not
mean, if
put
the
a
batteries,
meter.
if the battery's shut off, it shouldn't be charging.
Right,
It's a big panel.
Yeah, I mean, I have a solar panel charger on my skiff and it's, well, you've seen it, it's a quarter of the size of the thing that's on there. And I don't have any issues with mine,
But it's
Oh.
probably used a lot more.
but it just idle into the morning and back. So I mean, that's not really charging.
So maybe that's another thing you should check out if we
I'll,
need to
I'll,
have that
I'll talk
replaced
with,
and have a
I'll talk with
smaller.
them.
Okay, so what do you guys think of the plan?
Okay, you take week one.
You know, we try to, Right.
Dan, you can use it run for Calvo's Hall and have pizza and.
And you know what the saying is, if you don't know how to tie a knot, tie
Tie a
plenty,
knot.
so.
One department should
you
be
have to make
responsible
people
for it,
mow
not
down
two.
the harbor.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was written, I mean, at the time, it was maybe a different harbor master who was, more attentive to it and it just. Jim probably inherited something he didn't want and that's.
right, well, that's neither here nor there, we're setting out on a new path.
No, it's.
I think ancient history now.
I like Pam's idea of seeing how this goes. And then when the new budget cycle
Yes.
comes around, because there's just as far as pulling stuff out of the harbor kitty. There's, I mean, tons of floats. We should add another float onto that. where
So
that's
there's a
tough.
lot of things to spend money on.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's always so much.
So Jimmy, did you have anything further? You looked like you had,
No, I just think it just needs to be maintained more,
okay.
you know, and I got no problem doing that on the fire department, so.
So I think we should have a weekly or every 2 weeks, get a report. In the beginning to see how we go. And have the two departments. Somebody, no, just an email, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but Mark, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be you. It can be whoever tends to vote.
Send you an email.
Yeah, that's what I
You don't
just
have to
said.
Come
Just
to the meeting.
send an email.
Just send an email, let us know who's doing what, and so we are on top of it as well as you guys. Well, yeah. Anyway, does that,
Jimmy can just send a text with the thumbs up that he texted.
yeah.
It may be a struggle.
Whatever.
Smiley face.
But just so we're all on the same page is what I mean. Not trying to be a dictator here, but I mean, I can be, but. Anybody have any further things to add?
No.
I'll go see Kevin Hollis.
You can find out for the next meeting, okay? All right, well, good, thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. The input, that information.
We got that, class tomorrow, not tomorrow night, but the next
Thursday.
night. Yeah.
You zooming it both?
Thanks,
I
Jimmy.
just can do remote.
Yeah,
I got the link for the remote, and if I can make my Zoom thing work, then I'll.
cool. Awesome. Appreciate you guys
Thanks,
doing
Pete.
it.
No problem. Sorry I didn't get back to that
Don't fall
email. I missed it the first time.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. All righty, let's move on to number 10, new business wastewater abatement.
So this was a case of one freeze up during that January cold weather. And so as you all, I think you all know, everybody in the village gets a water bill and they get a wastewater bill.
Mhm.
So at this location, 5 Cottage Street, they did get a penalty from the water district bill as well, and they paid that penalty. They didn't receive any abatement. On the wastewater side, it was $4,077, and some of that was abated. But I don't believe, and that water doesn't, it just goes into our groundwater. It doesn't go through the wastewater system. So
Right.
I don't see the point in charging them. So I'm asking to have anything above the average usage for consumption abated.
Which would amount to what dollar figure?
Well, there's a motion here.
Yeah.
It amounts to about $2,000.
And definitely because it did not go into the sewer.
Yeah,
This is not an uncommon thing.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially when people were away during the freeze up.
Well, regardless, this is different than the water district,
No,
but for this particular thing where it went into the ground, just
Yeah,
would not.
They didn't even touch the sewer system at all.
Yeah.
Just-
Right.
right.
So I would move to abate that amount over and above average use for consumption at 5 Cottage Street. For approximately $2,061.
So
second,
moved.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Statutory discontinuance of a road.
So I've continued to have, continue to have discussions with Niall Conlon, and we've talked about trying a different route that actually takes quite a long time, and it culminates in a town meeting vote to actually discontinue a road. If you recall, on Sailor's Way, there's only 2 houses there, and this is a much longer route to take, and it may involve paying damages. However, in some cases, an appraiser might say that it's actually worth more if you discontinue the public way. I went out there with Millie and talked with Niall and actually looked at the road. And honestly, I'm not sure why anybody would want that to be, I mean, it's like a driveway.
Mhm.
So any of us could drive out there and drive onto this property. It's a public road.
Mhm.
And probably if a lot of people drove out there and drove on this road, the owner would be upset. But yet they want it to be a public road when maintenance
Yeah.
is needed.
No.
The other problem with this is that when you enter when you make the turn past Sharon Philbrooks and past that, broken down barn, there's a lot of ledge and these two big trees, and we can't even get equipment in there. Even if we wanted to, the big plows or, the grader, for instance. So I don't disagree that we should maybe try something, and this other route, the other route that we did is an easier route because the selectmen can make the decision. It's discontinued by abandonment. This is a statutory discontinuance that, as I said, culminates in a town meeting vote. It's a town meeting vote that adopts a town, and this would take it out of our public road list. So I guess my question tonight is whether you want to try this procedure for that same road. The thing to think about is that it could mean that the town would be responsible for some sort of damages, and at the very least, we would be responsible for paying for an appraisal.
I want to know why that we can't continue. You said that other person did not want it to be.
Well, it's a much,
I don't understand.
There's a burden of proof that I'm not 100% sure we're meeting in terms of the discontinuance by abandonment. Now, if everybody on that road agreed, I would be fine with that, but I mean, Millie actually admitted that she's been plowing and doing a minimum of maintenance, and she's only been the public works director for a year. So I didn't feel comfortable, given the fact that one of the residents didn't want us to discontinue the road. And I didn't want the town to be susceptible to any court action or anything like that.
So if we go the statutory route.
The statutory route is a much longer process. It takes a year after you initially write the letter. It requires an appraisal such that you would determine whether there was any loss or increase in value to this property because of the discontinuance. So in terms of cost, you would have to pay for an appraisal. And what was the, oh, and then if they did say, oh yeah, the value of this property is gonna go down because of the discontinuance, then you'd have to pay so-called damages. It's like, yeah.
Who would own the road if we discontinued, it's a town road, we gave up ownership?
So depending on where the property lines are, it would be whoever owns the abutting property, if you will.
But if they're both abutting properties to the road, I guess, is it joint ownership, or how is that determined?
It goes to the center line, for instance, if there's one owner on this side and one owner on this side, and I'm simplifying,
Okay,
then it would go to the center line.
Solomon
Right.
solution.
If the owner on the front part of the road, the entrance, owned both sides of the road, would an easement automatically come into play for the property owner at the end? So they would have access to their property?
I mean, who's gonna own the road after, if it was discontinued? Will it be joint ownership between the two property owners? Or is the,
No, I mean, they can, if they want, have some sort of agreement, but
is this gonna inhibit them, the second property, to access their property if?
That was my question.
Yeah, I mean, the first person wants the road closed.
mhm,
They're the first ones in the, after you go through the stone wall.
I see what you're asking.
Yeah.
But I
So,
I think that, because I've been up there, it goes. I think if we give it up, I don't think that is going to be an issue, because it goes straight through past one property onto the next.
What I mean is if Nile owns both sides of the road,
I don't think they do,
I don't know, I don't know that.
but that's
I
not
guess I
really
don't
our.
understand anyway. They wanted the road open, now they want it
Yeah.
closed.
Right.
That's what I don't understand. That is
It's dogs.
very, that really is upsetting to me. 3 or 4 years ago, we went through this to keep it open and we did. And now,
It's gonna be a
now
bigger
they want
pain to
it
close it.
closed.
And now we've got an issue with their butter.
But
Who doesn't want it closed?
Yeah, so I just, I don't
They
know.
want it because they've been maintaining it on their own. And not doing I think that's why the other owner doesn't want it.
Well, I mean, that's obviously up to
Yeah.
them. I mean,
Right.
I just don't understand. Anyway, but I guess we have no choice. We have to.
Well, I mean-
Well, no, you do. We don't have to continue with this. I'm just asking the question, if you want. Would you support moving forward with this process, or is it just something that you wanna abandon, not abandon, that's not a good word.
If we decide that we don't want to continue with us, what happens then? They just stays the way it
It
is.
stays a
Stays a
town,
town road.
Yeah,
Then we just have to maintain
and
it.
Right.
it's very difficult
well, I
to
know,
get in there.
right, we understand
Billy
that.
like to
But
get
let
it
me,
out.
but let me ask let me do a little research on, I have the survey, to answer that question.
Yeah.
Right.
It just
What
seems like a
happens?
huge thing to go through. To do that.
Because
statutory
the
thing.
people
To
at
do-
the-
Like you said, they closed it, open it. We're gonna have to do this. Is there any way if we do this, it could be a one-time,
This is it.
no going back?
No.
I know John and Wendy Richards, and if they don't want the road closed, they have the means to make sure that it's not closed.
But why have they not come forward? It would be
She
helpful.
did, she
She
did.
did.
She did?
She finally did.
Yeah.
Well, I sent them a
What?
letter about the,
Last meeting we talked about it.
Yeah, but I don't remember.
discontinued by
Yeah, they told you
abandonment
so.
on May 15th, and when
Yeah,
she
we don't
finally
do town
called
road
me,
roads.
Well,
she said, well,
yes.
we never got that letter because we left, no, I sent it on May 19th. We left Florida on May 15th, and they said they didn't have their mail, they don't have their mail forwarded,
Right,
so they never got that letter. So she did call and said that she objected.
okay, did she give any reason why she objected or,
She wants the town to maintain it.
right? No, I understand that.
Oh,
but
okay.
I just,
That's what it's about.
I'm just curious, I'd like to. Anyway, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for us to say we want to give up the road, we have to go through this entire thing and then have a town meeting?
Yes.
So, well, the flip side of that is we can say the town does not want to give up this road and we will continue to maintain it.
Yeah.
At
At the
its current
town,
level.
at the town's expense.
Yeah, just say, no, we don't want to do this.
It's an expense either way.
Right,
Or maybe yes,
because we
maybe
have to
no.
have it assessed and all that stuff, and pay damages and.
Let's face it, there's a lot of roads out here that shouldn't be town roads.
Right.
Well, I don't disagree there, but this one seems to be a little bit of an issue.
Keep
It's a thorn in
boomerang.
the side.
It's a boomerang.
What do you guys want to do?
So, is there a consensus to just do nothing at this point?
If we just leave it be for a while, we can, no, what do you want to do?
I'd like to give it up because it is an expense, but I don't know what the consequences of that would be. I don't know what the consequences are before we make the final decision.
Consequences?
Like, what is the expense of
We'd have,
that
we'd have to
versus?
pay for an appraisal, we'd have to pay for damages if the property value goes down because the town is giving up the road. What the amount of damages is anybody's guess.
Yeah, but it could go, like Marge said, it could
It
go
could go
up.
the other way.
Right.
They pay us, no.
And do John and Wendy Richards have any recourse if we go through this and the town votes at town meeting, do they have recourse?
No, before it gets to that,
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be something happen before that, right?
you have to have a public hearing.
yeah.
Good Lord.
It sounds like a lot to go through to I mean,
It
what do
is.
what have we spent on maintaining that road in the last 3-4 years?
Polly alone. has
We
got-
just can't get in there. I think at one point, they took a bunch of gravel in
They
there.
did lug a lot of material up in there.
Yeah, they put a lot
Fair
of
amount.
material in.
Yeah. To get it up to snuff, after we took it back
I
over.
don't think it's bad right now, but probably winter maintenance is really difficult, because we can't get equipment in there, and grading that dirt road is difficult, because we can't get the grader in there either. Anyway, I will not be doing anything on that unless,
The consensus is for us to
Leave it alone.
I guess leave it alone.
just leave it as
Table it and
is.
think about it.
If they if they push on it harder. Let's just give it a few meetings and see if we cannot hear about it for a minute.
Yep, and if
This has
not,
come
then
up literally every single meeting
This
since
come up-
we've been
yeah.
on.
it has.
All 3 meetings.
Maybe, and this might not be a good idea, but maybe both parties should come and talk to us to help us better understand
Agreed.
what's going on.
That's
That'd be a good idea.
I mean, I like that because one party has come and talked, and then the other one hasn't. It doesn't
And
get the mail,
disagrees.
disagrees, but doesn't give it doesn't have the mail forwarded. I don't
They're
know.
on a boat, I think. They've got a big yacht.
Well, whatever the case, I
Regardless,
think it would be a good idea if they both, if they want to pursue this, then let them make the next move and
Yes.
come to a meeting,
And
get on the agenda.
we're gonna talk about it.
I
Come to a
agree.
meeting,
Yeah.
and then we have a better understanding of what the heck is
Great
going
idea.
on. All right, does that
Yep.
sound good?
Yes,
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
thank
Coastal Communities Grant.
so this is related to the
Yep,
final cove analysis. This is the grant program. So as it says, the total project costs that we paid to Woodard and Curran was $37,500. We have received the $28,125 from the state of Maine Marine Resources. So I need to have an appropriation of $9,375.
in
Yeah,
order to
what am I
match,
saying?
those are the matching funds for the grant, correct?
That's the town's responsibility.
Okay,
So I'm proposing to just take it from the roads capital reserve funds.
I'm wondering though, if we ought to just hold off on anything until we look at some other options like we discussed in the last meeting.
No,
With
I just need to
Jake and
close
Millie.
out this
this
grant.
grant needs
This
to
has
be
already
closed
been
out.
done.
It's already been
Already been
approved.
done,
Already been approved.
We have to pay it no matter what.
This is
Or we
their
have
whole
to-
assessment
or we have
for
to
that.
pay back the whole
Okay,
amount of the grant.
okay, that makes it easier.
Yeah, it's either pay the 9375 or pay the
The
whole
whole
Yeah.
the
37,000.
whole thing back to the grant people.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes. Do you want to do the motion on?
oh, there it is, I don't. Move to appropriate $9,375 for required matching funds from the Roads Capital Reserve to the 2021 Coastal Communities Grant Program Preliminary Roadway, am I talking fast enough for you?
Gotcha.
And culvert assessment to mitigate coastal flooding.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Okay. Marjorie?
I gave you a budget report. This is for the 22-23 fiscal year ending in June 30th, June 30th, 2023.
Thank you.
Now we're in, right now, we're into the new budget, July and August, but this, we just finished recording all of the accounts payable. To finalize this report, Debbie thinks that there still might be some straggling bills coming in for the prior year. So the only department that's over by the 11,288 is the transfer station. And I believe that was over last year too. All of the other departments seem fine. No overages. Now, there on certain lines, there's over and under, but what we vote at town meeting is that bottom line figure. For instance, on transfer station, we vote to budget. In this fiscal year, it was 458,120, and we went over by 11,288.
Which is a transfer
So
station.
that's actually
That's
pretty
just-
good
right.
overall.
I think overall, it looks really good to me, in that, you know, many of the departments are in the 80 or 90%, but none of them went over, other
Right.
than the transfer station.
Does that beg the question on, do we need to raise the rates at the transfer station?
It's certainly an analysis that could be done. We don't collect enough in fees to pay for the transfer station, but it's that, you know, do you want to raise that per bag fee? Or do you want to take that from taxes? I mean, that's kind of the debate. So either way, really, you know, the people either pay through taxation or they're gonna pay through the per bag fee. The argument for the per bag fee is that then the cost goes to the people that have,
That are using
From
it.
the
Higher
track.
user, yeah.
yeah,
If I recall correctly, though, we did an assessment a while ago looking at it, and it seemed like the trash side, the bag, whatever, was positive, where the big loss was in the demo.
I don't know, I don't.
If I recall the numbers, I can't remember where I got it.
Well, the
here
demo,
somewhere.
yeah, definitely, we lose
Yes.
money on that.
Yeah, so the demo seems to be the issue, not the per bag fee, at least from what numbers I remember.
Well, the problem is always
How do you
that we
collect it?
we charge by volume, not weight, and.
We get charged by weight,
And
not
the,
volume.
we
Yeah,
get
yes.
charged by weight at the other end. So, of course, the correction for that is to have our own scales, but
Which
we've
is a lot
always,
of money.
you know.
Shingles kill us, I know, on.
Mhm.
on
Yep.
that.
It's certainly something to look at in terms of what. Honestly, I don't even know what we're charging for instance, a pickup load for.
$100 or something like that, right around there.
So maybe we have to increase that to 150.
there-
I did an analysis on Shabig and the cost was $129 per pickup load. But of course, it's a different town, different cost.
Right.
Maybe a
What
premium on
about-
shingles.
What about having asphalt separated and and charge more for asphalt?
Because of the
You know,
weight.
have a container that's just for roofing materials. And
Yeah,
have
it's
that,
only $100 per pickup load.
That's what I was thinking it was.
But, yeah, I think we increased it to 150 per pickup load and should be,
We went to 125, that would probably, these numbers from last year are there. That extra 25 would probably cover it by the time we're done.
Well, would you, allow me some time to have a discussion with
By all
Kenny?
means,
Yeah,
by all means.
Yeah. He's a good resource, really. Any questions on the budget report, or certainly if you look at it, and have additional questions, I'm always here to answer those.
I looked at it carefully and I thought it was pretty damn good.
is that because you're on the budget committee, Don?
No, I wasn't this time. But I am glad to
But
see
you
the
weren't
budget
with this
committee
one.
taking a more active role. I think that's a good step.
but you were with.
I wasn't this one? Okay.
This is the new one.
Okay, we did damn good.
Yeah.
Anyway, just teasing.
Any questions?
No, but what is? Go get that. Oh, okay, I thought she was done.
What is it?
Nothing. Yeah, that.
Oh yeah, the addressing ordinance. We're going through all of our ordinances and found that this addressing ordinance was amended, but it never went to town meeting to be approved. So Lizzie and I will be working on that, and we'll probably just put it on the next annual town meeting. You know, we don't really understand why. We found the amendments, some comments at selectmen's meetings, approving the amendments, and then
a public hearing and then.
there's a public hearing and
Just
it just never
disappeared.
went to town meeting for a final vote.
Oh,
It's a
interesting.
fairly, how would you say, not controversial ordinance.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We
And
need
the
some
changes are pretty
controversial ones to get people to go.
right. And then just to review, we had a meeting with the Knox County Sheriff's Office. That was on August 14th. Pam was there and Donald was there. Rick Latimer from North Haven was there, as well as Bruce Gilman, who was a select board member. The county commissioner, Sharon Pullman, and from Knox County Sheriff's Office, Kirk Andrick, chief deputy, was there, Paul Pinkham, and Deputy Jocelyn Lemoy. So we discussed various concepts for island coverage. As you know, the sheriff's office has lost 5 employees, so they're limited in what they're giving us even on a rotation basis. So, what's happening right now is that Rick Latimer and myself are discussing amendments to the existing contract. Rick has taken it upon himself to make some proposed amendments, and we're going to talk again and then bring it back to the 2 boards. So that's in process. So as I say here, we'll more than likely have limited coverage on a rotation basis because of the loss in employees. What I didn't put here is that they're also having problems with their dispatch department. Mark and I have been communicating about that. The 911 calls are now going to Waldo County Dispatch and then being routed through Knox. You'd have to talk with Mark about the details of how that's working. But they're working on the union that the dispatchers belong to. They're in discussions to get those people increased pay and increased benefits. So hopefully that will correct itself.
They have an ad and
I saw that.
about
Per diem.
Per diem.
Yeah.
so they are trying. But I think it's important to recognize, we talked about the ferry service a few minutes ago about how the pay was affecting the
Mhm, yeah.
availability. The same damn thing is happening with the police.
Mhm.
Josh made it real clear that the Knox County Sheriff's Department losing people to other places because they're so far underpaid. And I gotta say, I was a little concerned because I thought the way that conversation was headed, they are starting to think about how they negotiate a lower contribution to the sheriff out here. That was my take on.
What, would you repeat that, please?
I didn't get that either.
I just kind of listening to Kurt, I thought that, because Rick asked the question directly and then we didn't get a straight answer on it. It seems to me like under a new agreement, they're hoping that they can reduce the Knox County contribution to law enforcement out here.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Reading between the lines, you mean?
Listening to
Yeah.
conversation
Mhm.
back and forth. That was my
They
take
were,
on it.
I felt they were hoping that islands.
Pick up more of the cost. Just to, it's kind of a heads up, that's all that is.
No, they said it outright.
Yeah, but I'm saying for us as a group to understand that there are increased costs coming no matter what we do.
Yeah, and we're always low man on the totem pole with them. That's kind of how it's gonna be, and that's. I
That's
do
a
get it,
matter of
but-
fact.
Yes.
I will say though, I think they are trying, they're working with, they're trying to work with us.
Yeah, I thought the meeting went well.
I think we're all doing the best that we can with
Yeah.
the situation. We are looking and talking about other concepts, like constables or public safety officers. So at this point, just to bring some sort of stable law enforcement to the islands, I think that we have to start considering these other concepts, but certainly at this point, we're just doing the best we can. Rick and I are working on a proposal for a new contract. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, I think Josh is really doing his best.
Well,
to try to give
we're
us coverage
fortunate to
over
have Josh come down and
Yeah.
be a part of the, law enforcement here, and certainly the sheriff's department. At that meeting, they seem sincere in the fact that they do want to help try to
Yep.
find a solution, so. I thought that was the most positive meeting that we'd had with them.
Let's see, the other thing is that we have, I don't know if you recall or if we've discussed it since you've been here, the medical center and the land trust and the town have formed a group to look at Amherst Hill and to make improvements with the playground up there and some trails, and maybe in collaboration with the medical centers, some places for physical therapy, if you will. More convenient places for people to walk and to the physical therapy people to work, and some better places for children to play. We may be asking for some money for a survey. One of the challenges that we've been coming up against is that we don't know exactly where the boundaries are. Well, can we do this? Where are the boundaries?
Welcome to
So,
Vinalhaven.
yeah, exactly.
Small town Maine.
We have lots of money in the Parks Reserve, so it wouldn't have
Doable.
to be something new. What did I say? It's almost $40,000 in that reserve, which should be plenty of money for a survey, but I'll bring that proposal to you if we want to go forward and have you approve that appropriation out of the Parks Reserve. I just wanted to keep you apprised of how that was moving along.
And I would like to add that we are the Amherst Hill Collaborative. The official name. But it's great to have the three entities working together to try to make an
Right.
improvement to the playground especially.
And the other thing about that meeting the other day, I thought was pretty good. Vinalhaven Select Board member, and they seem to be looking for opportunities for the two islands to start working together closely like EMP.
Yeah.
And I think that's a damn good thing.
Yeah,
All right, anything else, Marjorie?
I think I'm done.
Okay. Report of members? Anybody have anything?
Nope.
How's the no parking signage working up for the? I saw them,
haven't
I
had any
really saw them
questions
this
about
time.
I go out
I saw you taking
early
them down the
Saturday
other day.
morning. What?
I saw you taking them down the other day.
I go out early Saturday. Nick helped me this
Oh, you're
past
doing
Saturday.
that? I thought,
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to call somebody in and have them.
oh, I thought we had a volunteer that was gonna do it.
Imagine.
Yeah, you're looking at her.
No,
Yeah.
that was person
Yeah, that was,
Thursday,
yeah,
we
that's
did
like,
that.
what is Tom's, what do we say
Oh,
about the
right.
bow thing? Someone
Yeah.
says they'll do it, and no,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's right. I
Somebody
heard-
know about it.
That
We
would've
haven't
noticed.
pulled them out and I haven't heard any complaints.
I went
You know.
by and it looked really good.
Yeah, simple. Yeah,
Yay.
pretty simple.
Just a quick thought, can we get some please use the sidewalk signs
Yeah,
coming out the
just,
Faribault?
Yeah,
they'll
right.
just walk around.
Good luck with that.
That will come with the downtown project.
Yeah,
We'll have a brand new sidewalk that
Yeah.
people.
I
will
got into
use.
it with some kids walking up the middle of Main Street. I said, get on the sidewalk.
Uh-huh,
They
What
shrieked-
happened?
They shrieked back.
Yeah,
really?
they tell you where to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, trippers.
Okay, so how about a motion to adjourn?
I like that
guess
one.
so.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, before we, next meeting,
I'm not gonna be available for the last 2 weeks in September. I'll be
All right, so.
out of commission.
when is the next?
So
our
we
next
have,
one will Be
September fifth.
the day
A
after
day
Labor
after
Day.
Labor Day.
September 5th,
Do
I
you
will
want
not
to
be
move
here.
it to the 12th?
Did you say 2 weeks in September?
I'm gonna be
The
out.
19th and the 26th.
Okay, so if we met on the 12th and then we could meet again on the, what, 3rd? October?
Shift it.
So You want to go,
26.
do you not want to meet the day after Labor Day? Is that what you're saying for some reason?
If we bump the meeting to the 12th, then Marjorie has